He calls me and he's like, hello, Lakebra. Unfortunately, I had to break it to you. You have acute lymphoblastic leukemia and you have to go to the hospital like today. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. As you read in the title and see in the thumbnail, today we have another story time. And this story time is a little bit more serious. And today I'm going to let y'all know how I found out I had cancer at just the age of 21. So without further ado, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And let's just get right into the story time, y'all. Let's paint the picture a little bit. So we're in 2022. I had just graduated from college. So like I mentioned in my last story time, I graduated from Tuskegee University in May of 2022. I ended up getting a full-time job offer from KPMG, which is a Big Four consulting firm here in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, the location that I chose was Atlanta, Georgia. Now, fun fact in the story is that Dallas was actually my first location choice when I was choosing where I was going to go after college. But then my dad was like, no, I think you should stay in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's such an important part to this story. So I listened. I'm like, okay, I'm graduating college early. I'm 20. I still want to be somewhat close to home, so I'm going to just choose Atlanta as my location. So I moved to Atlanta in August of 2022. And just to start off this story time, so one day I was at the gym. I was working out, and I noticed that I had this big lump. Now, I am going to include pictures, but warning, they don't look too appetizing, so please just, they're just for reference. But yeah, so basically, I had this big lump on my inner thigh, and I'm like, this doesn't look normal. Like, did I hit myself when I was working out or something? Like, what happened? So I ended up, thinking it was gonna go away, but then I waited 2 days and it was still there. So I ended up going to my mom and I told her about it, because I tell my mama everything. If you know, you know. You tell your mama everything. So I went and told my mom, and I think I told my dad as well about it, and they were like, you need to go get that checked. See, the thing about me is when something is happening, if it hurts, I'm going to the doctor immediately. I'm calling, I'm going to the doctor. But because it didn't hurt, it was I'm not really in a rush to go figure out what this is. So I'm like, okay, like I said, I had just started my new job, so I was getting my insurance through my job. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get my insurance. I'm going to find a doctor here in Atlanta, and I'm going to see about this. So I went in, and y'all, if I keep doing this, my hair keeps sticking up, but that's not what we're here for. So basically, I ended up going to the doctor, who is my primary doctor. She's still my primary doctor to this day. I love her down. I went for a primary physical. So I went in for a physical, and I ended up telling her about the lump on my leg. So she looks at it and she touches it, and she's like, that doesn't really feel right. The texture of it is really hard. So what I want to do is I want to get an ultrasound. I'm like, okay, no biggie. We're just going to get an ultrasound. We're just going to see what's going on there. So fast forward a little bit, I went and got an ultrasound on it, and I think my results came back in 2 days. So my primary doctor, she calls me and she's like, I'm not trying to scare you. She's like, I'm not trying to scare you, but basically the ultrasound results came back, and the texture and the size of your, I don't want to call it a lump, it's actually a lymph node. So the texture and the size of your lymph node is very concerning, and we want you to go to a cancer research specialist to kind of do blood tests to try to see, what this could be, because it possibly could be cancer. So y'all, cancer in my head always seemed like a dream, right? It never seemed like something that was real life. Granted, my dad, he had colon cancer, but by that time he, was done with his chemo. He was in remission, he's a survivor. So I just thought chemo was always this big thing that happened outside of me. I never imagined it. If y'all saw my toe, I never imagined it happening to me. Not saying that I'm too good for that, but I'm just saying I never imagined it. I don't think anybody really does. So I'm like, okay, but at the time, my mind was so far removed from the possibility of me having cancer. I'm just like, there's no way that I'm only 21 and that I could have cancer right now. So I started going back and forth to the cancer research specialist. They did a lot of blood tests. And what's so odd is that I only had that one lymph node that was in my inner thigh, but the day that I went to the cancer research specialist, I noticed that my face was like really, like it had like a droop right here. Kind of like, you know how when you have like extra fat, like your face just looks fat. So I'm thinking like, oh, I just gained weight. Like my face is just fat. But something told me to just touch it. Something told me to just touch the area. So I touched it and it was hard. So I told the doctor and he's like, yeah, you have a lymph node in your chin. Basically like the same thing that was in my thigh was in my chin. So he was like, it's growing rapidly. So at this point, he's basically telling me that I'm young. Like, he's literally playing it off, y'all. He's like, you're young. If anything, you just have lymphoma. And with lymphoma, you just have to take, like, pills and you'll be fine. So he's basically saying, like, it could still be cancer, but almost downplaying it. And I feel like there's no way to downplay cancer. Like, anything like that is, like, you know. But he was like, I want to get a biopsy and I want to confirm what this is. So for, like, a month or two, or probably more than that, I was going back and forth to the doctor trying to determine what this actually could be. So fast forward a little bit, and I know I keep saying fast forward, it's just everything happened in like chunks. So I think Thanksgiving passed, and over time the lymph nodes just continued to grow. I'm gonna insert pictures. So I had like a lot of them in my chin area, in the back of my neck. I had one under my arm. The other side of my thigh continued to grow bigger. So now I just have a bunch of lymph nodes everywhere. Like, I look crazy. I was so embarrassed. Like, I tried to hide it as much as possible, but I couldn't. So I knew something was going on. And just for reference, when you have lymph nodes growing, it could mean two things. It could mean that you have an infection and your body's just not fighting it off. Or it can mean that you have something like cancer. So that's why you need a biopsy to confirm or deny that. So, I remember one time, it was after homecoming, I ended up catching COVID and the flu at the same time, and I was so sick, and I was like, why did I catch COVID and the flu at the same time? Like, it seemed as if my immune system wasn't working properly. So, I finally go and get the biopsy. Of course, I'm super scared because this is the first time I've ever had anything surgery-like, and the surgeon basically told me that they're going to take one of the smaller lymph nodes out of my neck and they're going to perform a biopsy. So I was so scared that day. I just remember like being there. I forgot what they're called, but like the pastor, I would say, like what do they call it at the hospital? He came in and he prayed with me and they put me on some like laughing gas so that I can calm down, and then they gave me the anesthesia and I went to sleep. So I woke up. They said I woke up. They said I did so well. I woke up saying everybody's number. Like, I'll be like, my mom's number is da 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 da. And they were like, they just told me I did so well. So this is where the part of the story kind of turns. So I ended up going home to my hometown around this time because I wanted to just be around family during that time in terms of like healing from the surgery, because I had like the tape over my neck. I really couldn't move like that or do too much. So I just went home. So my friend's birthday was around this time. This was in December now. We're in December of 2022 now. My friend's birthday was around this time, and she wanted to go to Beat the Bomb. So if you live in Atlanta, you probably know what Beat the Bomb is, but it's very interactive. So because I had just had the surgery, they told me it was going to be like a week before I, completely heal, and that I can't really do anything that requires me to like lift or do anything like that. So I wanted to call my doctor to confirm, or the surgeon one to confirm, that I would be able to go to Beat the Bomb. This is where it gets crazy. So they called me first. Like, I didn't even get to call them. They called me first. And the same doctor who I go to at the cancer research, he calls me and he's like, hello, Lakebra. Unfortunately, I had to break it to you. You have acute lymphoblastic leukemia and you have to go to the hospital like today. What? When I tell you I froze and I was like, what the heck? I literally go in the other room. I give the phone to my mom. I don't even say anything. And she's confused because she's like, why are you giving me the phone? So she answers the phone and the doctor's talking to her. And she's basically like frozen too. Like, she's like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe this. So she basically tells the doctor, like, she's not going to be able to get back to Atlanta today. But if you give us to at least Wednesday, if possible, to get up there, get all her stuff together, and then we'll come in, because they were sending me to Emory. And the cancer research specialist, he was at Piedmont. So, y'all, I could not even explain, like, even now to this day, like, I cannot explain the feeling that I felt in that moment, because I just couldn't believe it. Because even though I knew it could have, excuse excuse me, even though I knew it could have possibly been cancer, you know, of course you're hoping that it's not. And then because he also told me that it wasn't, you know, anything to worry about, like it would just be this, you would just have to do this. But then he calls and he's like, you have this big thing that's growing fast, and it's very, very important that you get into the hospital like right now and go see this doctor, oncologist right now. So Wednesday comes, we go back to Atlanta, we get to my apartment, and the surgeon's nurse calls me, and she's telling me, like, first of all, when a surgeon calls you and tries to diagnose you, don't listen. Because when I tell you, she had me so stressed out. She had my dad stressed out. She calls me and she's telling me, like, what my cancer is, which is completely different from what the other doctor told me. And she's telling me that it's this rare cancer and that 2 out of 4 people survive. Like, it was, y'all, I cannot make this up. It was literally crazy. So I hang up the phone, and it was on speaker, so my dad was at my apartment with me at the time, and my dad, he's very, 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 very nonchalant. So he just kept getting up, and he just kept pacing, like, through my house, and I'm just like, is he okay? Like, I'm not okay, but is he okay? And he would, like, get up, he would walk to the kitchen, and then he would go back to the couch, and then he would just sit there like this. And I'm just like, what's going on? So when she called me and she told me that, my mind didn't really regulate what she was telling me. So I kind of just tuned it out at first because, again, I had just graduated from college. I had just started my big girl jobs. I literally was still at work that day. So I'm doing work online, and I'm, like, not trying to think about what she just told me. But then I go on Dr. Google. Don't ever go on Google because Google will have you thinking that you're going to pass away tomorrow. So don't go on Google. But I go on Google and I look up what she tells me that I have, and I'm seeing basically everything she just told me, and I immediately run in my room and I start breaking down crying. My dad, he runs in there after me, and again, my dad is very nonchalant. I never seen my dad cry at that point, 21 years of my life. So he's literally holding me and he's like breaking down crying. And I called my mom because my mom ran out to get some stuff for me. And she's like, what happened? What happened? So she comes back and she's like, you know what, guys? Like, let's just calm down. Let's just wait till we go and see the oncologist tomorrow for him to tell you exactly what you have and the game plan for that. So, you know, I calmed down overnight. I went to sleep. I wake up the next morning and we head to Emory. And I think my feelings at this point was like, I know I'm not coming home anytime soon because the doctor already told me, like, once I'm in the hospital, I'm going to be there for like a month doing chemo. So we get there. I think I cried basically that whole entire day. Like, my life was literally changing. Like, something that was so good for me. Like, I had just graduated. I had just got my big girl job. I think I had traveled to like California. I was traveling for work. I was going through a heartbreak at that time. So the story time kind of plays into this as well that I did on my channel about my heartbreak story time. So I was going through heartbreak and he knew everything that was going on. But at the same time, it was just like things were going good for me. So I literally was crying that whole entire day. We meet with the oncologist. He reassures me that what the lady told me I had was not what I had. I think I was at the part where we went to the oncologist and he basically told me that what I had wasn't what I really had, that the lady told me I had. But he did say, like, I had with the cancer research specialist told me the acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and that I would have to spend the next month of December, including Christmas and New Year's, in the hospital doing chemotherapy just to confirm that this is exactly what I have, and that I wouldn't and to do chemo as well to see how I take it. And if I'm in remission by the end of that, then basically I can just leave the hospital. I can be discharged. So I got admitted that day. My emotions and my feelings were everywhere. I kind of just felt like my life was over. I'm so thankful that my job at the time, they were very understanding. They allowed me to go on short-term leave. So I was still getting paid as I was doing chemo and still able to keep my insurance. So that was really just a good thing for me. I'm so thankful that my family was there during that time. Like, I honestly and truthfully don't know what I would have done without my family and friends during that time. Their support is what kept me just going every single day. Also, just like the positive mindset that I had behind it. Like, even to this day, people always tell me, they're like, you don't look like what you're going through. And I'm like, you gotta have that mindset. You gotta have that you gotta have that about yourself. You gotta carry that aura into just knowing that, what you go through is not what defines you. And I just remember my dad telling me, y'all, and I'm trying not to cry when I say this, he told me, like, I survived for you when you were going through your cancer journey, so now you got to survive for me. And y'all, I literally was bawling in that room because he was crying as well. So yeah, the hospital life was, you know, it was what you can expect. I had the biggest room on the floor though, so that was so exciting. Everyone was coming to see me every day. It was a good time. To the point where I was actually very nervous to leave the hospital because I was scared that when I got out of the hospital that my parents weren't going to be able to take care of me as good as the nurses in the hospital did, which they were all so sweet. And if you know anything about leukemia, like, you basically don't have a immune system, so you have to be very, very careful. No one, there's only a certain amount of people who could be in the room at a time. No one could bring flowers on the floor, and I couldn't go outside of those, like, that hallway. Like, I had to stay there for a month, so I really didn't even experience outside air for so long. I spent Christmas in the hospital, but my family brought Christmas to me, and luckily I got out before New Year's, which was so amazing, because I ended up doing a bone marrow biopsy, and if you had one of those before, oh my gosh, like, they're horrible, but it confirmed that I was in remission. So once I was in remission and I was done with that first round of my chemotherapy, I was able to go home and be discharged, which was a shocker for me. It was like a life change for me because, again, being nervous of not having the nurses right there whenever I needed them, and then also just going back to my regular life and just, you know, not knowing how to navigate that with cancer. I am a workaholic, so I went right back to work. I luckily was working from home mainly during that time, so I was still able to work and go through chemo. And then also, after a while, I was doing chemo every single day, but I was going to the hospital every day, even though I wasn't in the hospital. My parents eventually had to end up going back to work. So there was one time that I was here at home by myself here in Atlanta, and I got really sick, and I was so weak that I couldn't do anything for myself. So from that point, my mom and my dad both were like, you know, I don't think you should just be there by yourself. Like, I think you should come home, and then we'll just come back and forth when you have appointments. So once it got to a point where I wasn't doing chemo every single day, that's exactly what we did. Like, I still had my apartment here, but I was just going back home. And I think I mentioned that in my last story time as well. So yeah, my chemo regimen altogether is 3 years. So this is my last and final year. I'll actually be ringing my bell in April. So yeah, it's been a long journey. 2023 was probably the hardest year because I was doing chemo so much. My body didn't have time to rest. I had a PICC line and it would fall out all the time. So I would always have to get like a little procedure to get it put back in, which was so annoying. It was a lot of sticks and pricks and days of feeling bad and nauseous. My appetite was all over the place. I lost so much weight. It was a lot. It was a lot. I lost all of my hair, y'all, and I want to continue to do videos on my hair care journey. I actually have a video up now about me growing my hair back and how my hair has started to grow back. But that was a complete life change for me because as a female, like, your hair is almost your everything, and then losing all of that, like, to the complete, like, strip of, like, hair that you could have, like, it was a life changer. And I went through so much during that time, but I never allowed that to dictate how I acted towards other people, how I showed up in the world. I still was always so positive. I still always poured into other people, I feel like, and I still was always having a smile on my face. I think that's what my nurses love about me so much, is that I don't let what I went through define me. And not saying that I never went through anything. I went through it really bad, but it's just like when I could be positive, I was positive. Even though it was a lot, even though I was young and it was a life changer, I still had to get through it. I was going through a heartbreak during that time. If y'all tune into my last 2 videos, you know exactly what happened with that. So it was a crazy, crazy time in my life. But fast forward to, I would say, 2023, around October, is when I enter my maintenance phase. Also, y'all, I forgot to mention that during the summer of 2023, I also found out I had a blood clot in my pulmonary artery, which is like your heart area. And I had to go into the hospital for that as well. and I had to give myself like an injection twice a day. It was horrible. And I was always like in and out of the hospital. I had to be in the ICU one time. Like I was always in and out of the hospital, and it always seemed that I would have to get inputted into the hospital on a day where something important was happening. Because for cancer patients, if you have a fever of like 100, you're getting put into the hospital because they think you have an infection, which sometimes may be the case. So again, it was life-changing for me. And what I will say is that going through something like cancer definitely put me in a space to have to like grow up faster and realize, you know, things that I needed to realize or probably would have realized later on down the line. It allowed me to grow up. It allowed me to grow my mental. I would say, like, for me, I was a fairy tale child. Like, I really never had to go through anything like horrible or anything like that. So this was like the first big thing in my life where it was like, whoa, this is a lot. But fast forward again to October 2023, that's when I entered maintenance. So maintenance is basically you're not really getting chemo as often. For leukemia, that's like your last chemo phase. So I wasn't really getting chemo that much anymore. My body had time to rest. I started getting back to myself, and that's basically the like space that I've been in since then. Like I already mentioned, I will be ringing my bell in April, so I'll be completely done in April. I've been in remission for a while, thank the Lord. Thank the Lord, y'all. I cannot do this without God. Like, people are always asking me, like, what keeps you going? Like, how do you have this positive mindset? It's not me, y'all. It's God. Like, I literally cannot do it without Him. Like, when I tell you, like, there's been so many things that I've gotten through. There's been so many things that I've been told that happened, like, that came from just doing chemo. And it's like, I don't know how I got through it. Like, it's always just been God. So I will always give Him the praise for everything that I've been through and just allow me to be where I am right now, on top of like all the other stuff that I went through too. Like, it was God, y'all. It wasn't me. It was the Lord. Okay. I think I was saying I'll be done in April. I'll be ringing my chemo bell in April, and I'm going to vlog that whole process. And I hope you guys continue to follow me on my journey, you know, with just ringing my bell. And then after that, showing my life after cancer, showing that you can go through something and you can come back on top. Okay. That's the main message of this video. When life tries to fight you, you just fight back and you come out on top every single time with God, okay? I'm so grateful for any and everyone who tuned into this video. Thank you for allowing me to share my story, and I hope this inspires and helps someone. And please continue to be with me on my journey of my YouTube and becoming your favorite relatable creator. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, I will see you on the next video. Bye.